Will O'Neal Cruz be the most dominant Cruz in the MLB this upcoming season? I have the answer to that and much more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Once again, Matthew Ane has the night off, so you're rocking with just me tonight. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on a platform or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that little bell below. It gives you notification every time when you drop a new episode, and it subscribes you to the channel. And lastly, but most importantly, guys, join us on the Subtext platform this time of year. It's super important to get an edge up on your opponents, and you can do that with Matt and I on the Subtext platforms. You get alerts right to your phone with text message updates. Matt and I have our rankings out right now on there with tiers, over 100 starting pitchers and outfielders. We're answering all of your dynasty and keeper questions, and we're giving out grades for your drafts. So make sure you join us there. And guys, before we get started today, I got to talk to you about today's sponsor. We're talking about FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150. If your team wins, visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today. And all right, guys. No, it's a little early, a little bit early to be doing this, but, I think we're going to do multiple, kinds of these episodes. And we're starting with breakouts today. As I mentioned, Matt's off with young Luke tonight. Once again, wish him well. If you haven't heard, Matt's family has gained a member with their son Luke Morgan. His wife has given birth. So once again, congratulate Matt and let him know that you care, and we truly appreciate you guys. So you're rocking with just me. Matt gave me a couple of names for his breakouts. I have about 6 of my own, couple of Matt's, and we're gonna rock through some of these names. And I kind of teased one of the big names at the top, and I know we've been talking about him a lot, but we kind of want to keep the ball rolling with him, and it's O'Neal Cruz. O'Neal Cruz is somebody, as I said, Matt and I are super high, and we've been talking about him a lot, and we have really what I think is good reason for it. We're getting pretty good value on a player in O'Neal Cruz who has massive upside. If you guys have been listening, I know we've been using NFBC ADP. We're actually going to switch over to Fantasy Pros ADP right now, because they have released their ADP, which is a combination of ESPN, CBS, Yahoo, RTS Sports, NFBC, and we're getting the composite, the average of all of these websites. O'Neal Cruz is coming off the board as the 13th shortstop around pick 90. I have O'Neal Cruz coming off the board in my rankings at shortstop number 9. So I think we're getting really good value on him. O'Neal Cruz's upside is ridiculous. Honestly, O'Neal Cruz could hit 30 plus homers, steal 40 plus bases, and just be a dominant 5-tool fixture in your lineup. I think we're talking about O'Neal Cruz next year, if he can stay healthy and play a full season, as a top 2-round type player. The talent is all there. Let's talk about some of his minor league seasons, because that's where O'Neal Cruz really shined, during his minor league days. He had a monster season in 2021 in the minors, where he played 69 games, 271 at-bats, 62 runs. He had 16 doubles, O'Neal Cruz did. 5 triples, 17 homers, 47 RBIs, 19 steals, and he hit .310. O'Neal Cruz always hit for good batting average and good power, and showed off good speed in the minors. O'Neal Cruz, 6'7" lefty, 215 pounds, monster of a man. And I know all the hype is around Elly De La Cruz, and for good reason. We all know what Elly did when he first got the call. monster, stole home, just looked fantastic. But, Ellie De La Cruz really slowed down after that All-Star break. I think he hit under 200, just didn't really look the same. And, I know they have the same last name, no relation, but they're both big infielders, monsters, monstrous men. So that's why the comparison is drawn between the two of them. And I think there shouldn't be as a big of a difference in ADP as there is right now between Ellie and O'Neal Cruz. Ellie De La Cruz is coming off the board right now as the 8th shortstop, according to Fantasy Pros ADP, 39th pick. And that's just a crazy difference for guys that I think, honestly, at the end of the year, we'll look back and they'll have put up similar numbers. So let's move on here. Let's talk about somebody, that O'Neal Cruz was a combination guy. Matt and I both love him. Let's move on to another combination guy here from Matt and I. And if you watched any of the podcasts, you probably know the love that we have for this man. It's Vinny Pasquantino, the Pasquatch. We love him. Last year, Vinny P suffered an injury, caused him to miss most of the year. Didn't really get to, show off the upside that we know he has. Vinny Pasquantino, when he came up in 2022, played 72 games, had 258 at bats, 25 runs, 10 doubles, 10 homers, 26 RBIs, stole a base, 35 walks to 34 strikeouts. So he's really going to help you in those points leagues. The plate discipline is amazing, and a 295 batting average. If I had to throw a comp out there for Vinny Pasquantino, I think he has the upside of I'm not really going to give you a player here. Let's just talk about his stats. I think Vinny Pasquantino could give you, let's say, like 80, maybe 80 runs. I think 30 plus homers is definitely in play because he hit the ball super, super hard. If you look back at 2022, he was mashing the ball, average exit velocity of 91.2, really barreled the ball up well, just did everything that you really want to see from, a hitter. I think the RBIs could be good. Maybe around we're talking maybe 85. Let's see how this, Royals lineup does. And the walks, the strikeouts are going to be fantastic. So that's going to help you so much. And I think the batting average, honestly, I really think Vinny P is going to be anywhere from a 275 to even a 290. I know that's a big range, but if he really puts everything together, he can be that 290 type of hitter where he can move up and be a top 10 first baseman. Right now, I have Vinny P as my number 13 first baseman, and let's see where early ADP has Vinny P. I know it's super late. I want to say it's around the 18th first baseman last time I checked. Yeah, 18th first baseman, pick 143. So honestly, I feel like this is a year we can wait a little bit at first base and kind of wait for the Tristan Casases and the Torkelsons and the Josh Naylors and the Vinny P's, and I think we're going to do very, very well on guys like that. But before we move on and talk about two names specifically that Matt gave me, and we're really gonna break them down here, because once again, Matt's not around. We'll pick on him a little bit. But before I do that, guys, I have a quick ad for you. And guys, real quick, we're talking about FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all of those who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or two or three. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And guys, before we move on, I need to talk to you and let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And guys, this is the last one before we, get back rocking here. The one that's most important to Matt and I, we're once again introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Dive into the offseason with Matt and I as we provide our tiered rankings with over 100 outfielders and starting pitchers. And we're going to be providing prospect insights, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and personalized draft grades. If you got those burning questions, Matt and I got the answers. As the season unfolds, rely on us for dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up alerts, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead in your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where the path to your victories begins. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience today. All right, guys, that is a lot. Thank you for, bearing through that with me. But we're going to move on. We're going to get you some more great names. These next two specific names come from Matt himself. So let's break them down. Let's talk about the first one here, starting pitcher. Let's talk about Shane Baz. And Shane Baz is such a dynamic young pitcher. We haven't really seen him stay, healthy yet and show us a full season of what he's capable of. But we do know the upside. The upside, honestly, of Shane Baz with the elite stuff is a top 15, top 20 type starting pitcher. He's still fairly young. 24 years old. Had some really good showings in the minor leagues, but once again, never really pitched a crazy amount of innings. 2019, 2.99 ERA, 17 starts, 81 innings, 87 strikeouts, a 1.23 whip. And then the next year in Shane Baz actually didn't pitch during the COVID year, which was 2020, but 2021, Shane Baz still came back in the minors, another 17 starts, 2.06 ERA, 78 innings, 113 strikeouts over the 78 innings, and a 0.8 whip. And he's been really, really good. It's just the injuries are the big problem here with Shane Baz. I understand why, Matt thinks that he can, break out and be really, really good. I like him as well. Honestly, it's a big fastball, sits around like, 96, 97 with it. Also throws that nice slider there, which is a very, very good combo. Really doesn't really throw much more than that. Honestly, those are his two main pitches. Does mix in, a curveball and a changeup here and there, but, it's not really what he's doing most of the time. I have Shane Baz, I think, fairly high, especially according to ADP. I know ADP is super low on Baz. First, I want to tell you guys where I have him. I have Shane Baz as my SP40. I don't really see myself drafting him a lot, so it's not a guy I'm targeting. But, if he starts to fall, coming off the injuries, we don't know really how many innings we're going to get. Honestly, I'd be shocked if we get over 120 from Baz. And we know Tampa likes to, baby their starting pitchers, especially ones that, aren't known for throwing a lot of innings. So I think Baz will be babied. So not somebody I'm targeting, but if he falls and, you get the value, honestly, let's look at Fantasy Pros and see where Shane Baz is actually going at the moment. I know it's fairly low. He was somebody I was looking at the other day myself. Shane Baz, starting pitcher 57, pick 200. So the value is actually there. You're not paying the price of where I actually think he can land is, maybe a top 40, top 50 starting pitcher. You're getting him almost, at SP60, which is going to be around your SP5-6. Not loving it there. And honestly, Shane Baz is probably a name I might even move down a little bit in my rankings. Kind of want to see what spring training looks like for him. But Shane Baz, somebody Matt loves, that he thinks is going to have a breakout year for, obvious reasons. Kind of riding that bandwagon a bit, but not really targeting Shane Baz. So let's move on to Matt's next guy here. Let's talk about Logan O'Hoppe, another dude that was just kind of bombarded by injuries. And that's kind of where you see, these young players that wind up becoming breakouts. They finally get healthy and they really pull it together. And I think Logan O'Hoppe has the chance to do that this year. That Angels team isn't fantastic, but they still have a couple of guys in that lineup. Maybe Anthony Rendon can stay healthy, right? Obviously, Mike Trout, another guy, needs to stay healthy. I like Luis Rengifo over there. So they do have a couple of names in that lineup that can get the job done. But, O'Hoppe had some really good showings in the minors, before coming over to the Angels from the Phillies. In 2022 in the minors, O'Hoppe played 104 games, 360 at bats, 72 runs, 14 doubles, 26 homers, 78 RBIs, and he hit 283. A guy in Logan O'Hoppe has kind of really always shown a solid batting average in the minors, has some pop in that bat. He steals a couple of bases, actually had 7 steals. I don't know if I mentioned that in 2022 in the minors, so maybe can even chip in a couple of steals. Right now, I have Logan O'Hoppe as my 12th catcher. I think that's a safe spot, honestly, in a 12-man league. If you're walking out with him as your catcher, I don't think that's the worst situation. You obviously waited, so hopefully the rest of your team looks, pretty strong coming out. But I'm not mad at Logan O'Hoppe. Like I said, 6'2", 185. Righty, has some upside there. Once again, not really going to be relying on him for steals, or I don't know if the counting stats are going to be fantastic, but there's some pop in that bat. I think there's 25 plus home run upside there with O'Hoppe. Once again, RBIs and runs really going to depend on how that Angels team, but I don't think he's going to be a guy who crushes you in batting average. You may look at those 51 games from last year and see that 236 and be intimidated by it, but let's not be intimidated by it, because I think O'Hoppe can honestly be a 250, 260, and then maybe even some good years 270 type hitter, or with even a little bit of upside there. So let's not shy away from O'Hoppe, somebody that not I don't know how high Matt has him ranked. Once again, I have him as a top 12 shortstop, and let's actually pull up current ADP on O'Hoppe to kind of see where they're at. 14th catcher for O'Hoppe, so they're not too far off. That's pick 212. Catcher, another position, that I'm not really, going out of my way to draft really high, because, like I said, with first base, you got some names that are just going a little bit later, and I'm going to focus myself in, some other directions. But now let's get into some of the names I liked. And I know I've burned a lot of time here talking about, Matt's names and some of the shared names we have. So I'll try and be a little bit quicker on, the bottom half, talking about names that I like. One name I'm super, super high on this year is Jordan Walker, right? Jordan Walker, a guy who got the nod last year to start the season with the Cardinals and started off a streak. I believe it was like, I forget whether it was an on-base streak or a hit streak, but it was like 14 games to start his career. He was looking fantastic. Then he hit a little bump in the road. There was a little stretch there where Jordan Walker really didn't look good, was struggling, striking out a lot, and even defensively was the big thing. His defense didn't look great. His glove was kind of, a little bit behind where the Cardinals wanted it to be. So they said, you know what, we're going to send Jordan Walker down to the minors and, let him get his head on straight. But, that's crazy for a guy that was 21 last year and just figuring things out. Let the man just do it in the bigs. He didn't need to go down to the minors, because then even when he went back down to the minors last year for the 29 games, he had 239, didn't look like himself. But then, they called him back up. And Jordan Walker actually finished out the year pretty strong. I know I saw him dropped in a bunch of leagues, and I said, you know what, let me just pick him up and see where the thing goes. And honestly, his August was really strong. Jordan Walker in August started 24 games, had 83 at bats, 8 runs, 22 hits, 4 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, 1 steal, 11 walks to 23 strikeouts. Is an atrocious. He had 265. And then between September and October, Jordan Walker started 27 games, 102 at-bats, 17 runs, 31 hits, 5 doubles, 1 triple, 4 homers, 12 RBIs, a steal, and he hit 304. So Jordan Walker can get it done. Right now, I have Jordan Walker coming off the board as my 24th outfielder compared to current ADP, which I think I'm pretty close on ADP with Jordan Walker. I don't think that's somebody that I'm too far off on with ADP. 30th outfielder, pick 130. I'm loving that. I love the value on Jordan Walker at the moment. Let's get into some pitching. Let's get back into the pitching side of things. Let's talk about Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is somebody that I'm just absolutely loving on this year. Right now, Freddie Peralta is coming off the board as the 19th starting pitcher, pick 58. I have Freddie Peralta as my starting pitcher number 14. I think he's a high-end SP2, and if you guys know the podcast and you listen, you know my love for Freddie Peralta. The one stat that I continue to bring up when it comes to him, you see that 3.86 ERA from last year, and you're like, Dom, you're loving on this guy. You got him as a high-end SP2 with a 3.86 RA. He's still young. That's the big thing with Freddie Peralta. Still only, 27. So he's kind of hitting that prime of his career. He finally, put together a fairly healthy season last year. But down the stretch is where Freddie Peralta really shined. And I want to talk about his last 10 starts. He went 8-2, 59 innings pitched, 88 strikeouts, only 11 walks, 33 hits. You're talking about a sub 1 whip, a 1.96 ERA, 2.17 FIP, which is fielding independent pitching ERA indicator. Shows you the results are right on with the indicators. Batters hit 157 against Freddie Peralta over that time with a 199 OBP. Nobody was getting on base against Freddie Peralta. Honestly, do I think he does a sub 2 ERA all season next year? No, not at all. But I think right now there's a little bit of room to profit on Freddie Peralta, and that's what we work on here. When you play fantasy baseballs, those profit margins, just kind of want to get a little bit of value everywhere you can, and then it just adds up along the way, and that's how you really succeed in fantasy baseball. But Freddie Peralta threw 165 innings last year. No reason he can't get close to 200 this year if he could finally stay healthy at 28. I think it's really make or break for Freddie Peralta, and with Corbin Burns being gone, they're really going to expect him to, pitch like an ace, and I kind of think that's why they really gave up, a Corbin Burns, because they believe in Freddie Peralta, as do I. So somebody I'm drafting everywhere. I think breakout year in store for Freddie Peralta incoming. Put it on the board with that one. Let's move on though. Let's talk about a young guy. Let's talk about Evan Carter. Evan Carter is somebody that just took the league by storm when he got the call last year. I was fairly high on Evan Carter with my prospect rankings coming into last year. And speaking of prospect rankings, Matt and I are going to have those out sooner than later. So make sure you stay locked on for those. And guys, you know what? Actually, real quick before I jump in and give you my take on Evan Carter and then wrap things up with a couple other young players that I think can really break out this year. We got one more ad for you. All right, guys. So thanks for bearing with me through that. We're back with Evan Carter talk, right? Evan Carter came up last year as a 20-year-old, played 23 games, 62 at-bats, 15 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 5 homers, 12 RBIs, 3 steals, 12 walks to 24 strikeouts, and he had a 306 batting average. And he was just Evan Carter's guy. Hit for batting average the last 2 years in the minors, has a little bit of pop, has, actually solid plus speed. I think Evan Carter is somebody that the hype was there in, early draft seasons. Early draft season when, all the experts were really the only the ones drafting and, everyone was really loving on him. But I feel like his ADP has moved down a little bit, at least from what I remember. I'm going to pull it up again here on Fantasy Pros and see where our buddy Evan Carter's been coming off the board. 25th outfielder, pick 110. I like Evan Carter as an outfielder 3. If you can get him as an outfielder 3, I'm kind of loving on that. Right now, I have Evan Carter as my outfielder 20, which I think is pretty solid. Only 5 spots ahead of current ADP. Once again, I don't know if I'm really taking him as my outfielder number 2. I kind of know I have him ranked that way. Would really, really love to get him as my outfielder 3 if ever possible. So once again, not a guy I'm super targeting. If he falls and I can really get him as a high-end outfield number 3, I'll take him there. So it's kind of like the game with Evan Carter. He's going to be in a great lineup, but let's see kind of where they have him projected to hit in that lineup. I don't think it's going to be too high with all of those, superstars, but who knows? The rumors with Corey Seager's injury is that he might miss opening day, so there might be a little chance that Evan Carter sneaks his butt up that lineup, right? No, actually, they have Evan Carter projected to hit 4th. If Evan Carter is projected to hit 4th in that lineup, honestly, I could see a line like um 25 homers, 100 RBIs, 30 steals, plus batting average in the 280 mark. So honestly, even if you are taking him as your outfielder number 2, you might not be mad at the results, but it is a little bit risque at the moment. I do love me some Evan Carter, and I know I did a draft the other day where I was able to get Evan Carter as my outfielder number 3 because he fell a little bit, and I'm loving it. So once again, not targeting him as my outfielder number 2, but if I can get him as my outfielder number 3, I'm taking it all day long. Let's keep things pushing here. Let's move on to a catcher, and then we'll see if I have time for both of these last 2 names. But a catcher, somebody that we haven't talked about a lot. I want to kind of bring up the name. I want to talk about Yainer Diaz, the catcher for the Houston Astros. He's got the nod of confidence over there from management. We've heard that he's going to be playing every day coming into 2024, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. In limited action in 2023, the 24-year-old Yainer Diaz played 104 games, had 355 at-bats, 51 runs, 22 doubles, 23 homers, 60 RBIs. Not a points league guy. Just throwing that out there. He's not a points league guy. 11 walks to 74 strikeouts, a 282 batting average. Yainer Diaz, honestly, even though he strikes out a decent amount, really hits for batting average all throughout his minor league career. Honestly, in his minor league career, he never hit under 294, has always shown pretty strong power, doesn't steal bases. So in categories leagues and roto leagues, I'm really loving on Yainer Diaz. In my rankings, I honestly have Yainer Diaz up as my number 7 catcher at the moment. So I am pretty bullish. I don't think ADP has him that high, but once again, we're pulling that up here. Actually, boy, am I wrong. Yainer Diaz coming off the board as the number 5 catcher right now, pick 117. Honestly, not mad at pick 117, but super, super shocking that honestly I might have to move him up. Might have to move him up because I think Yainer Diaz is somebody that is going to be very, very good this season, hitting in that very, very good Astros lineup. No reason not to draft him. If you see him falling in your leagues, definitely somebody that, I think is going to break out. Guy hits the ball very, very hard. So I think the power is legit. So like you're talking about runs should be good. Home runs should be plus, RBI should be plus, and honestly, a guy who's always hit for batting average. So I don't see why he can't really continue the trend, even though he does, strike out a decent amount and not walk. I did have 2 names here. One, I'll give you the obvious one, give you the 2 seconds on him. Grayson Rodriguez, got the call last year, looked really bad, didn't live up to the hype, got sent back down, figured things out, came back up and looked really, really good in the second half. Had a stretch where he was around a K per 9, very strong ERA, very strong whip. Grayson Rodriguez is somebody that I really think is going to just break out and honestly be like a top 25 starting pitcher for years to come. I have Grayson as my 20th starting pitcher. Let's see where ADP has him. And then I'll kind of try and sneak in this last guy who I honestly really do want to talk about. Grayson Rodriguez coming off the board, a starting pitcher, 22, pick 72. Another guy, not loving him as my SP2, but if I can get him as my SP3, I think that's solid. But just not a guy I'm targeting, but a guy I think really can break out and be strong this year. Let's move on to somebody I'm targeting late, and it's Vaughn Grissom, goes to the Red Sox, finally gets a chance to play every single day. I think they came out and announced that they want to play Grissom every day at second base. That's why they make the move like this. Right now, he's coming off the board. I don't know if he still has second base eligibility. because I'm not seeing him here at second base anywhere. But what the thing is, Von Grissom can hit for average. He's got a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. Think he could be a sneaky 2020 guy with a little bit of steals. A 2020 guy. He's coming off the Von Grissom's coming off the board at pick 271. Invest everywhere. But I gotta wrap things up here, guys. I appreciate you, working with me through Matt not being here. Once again, wish Matt and his family well. New son there from Matt. But guys, that's all for me today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Also, thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure you look out for a new episode. But guys, until then, see ya.